All right, Sam back with you here. We are midday on Tuesday, February 20th. Final coin of the day, and once again, per the polling that we do amongst members, last one here is Vertcoin to Bitcoin. Now, we've done this one before. Thing with Vertcoin, so I've got a 4-hour here. This is Vertcoin to Bitcoin on Bittrex. So you might, pull this up and you start looking at it. The thing with Vertcoin, you got to look at the history here. So you got to really step back. So I'm going to go all the way to a daily and start to put this in perspective. All right, so it looks a little different from this view. So you can see we had a, a pump and then a long accumulation, and then something is starting to happen now. So let's go back to that. Let's go to an 8-hour. So I've just wicked off the absolute low here, where we can start this count from. And so, I suppose you could make a case here that you were retracing from the absolute low here. I don't think we have a case for this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think that's likely here. I think we had the it does not look to me like that's the symmetry we would expect to find. So this likely a completed structure. We get the correction here, then you can see the subdivision. So likely a diagonal here into the 2, and then you get the 3, 4, 5 here. So I would be working from this as swing low to high. This correcting that entire move. We're through the golden zone. We dabbed into it a little bit. So I would be looking now for this as a fresh move off of those lows. This is kind of interesting here. This again is why it's always good to look left. So we could start right here, and we see that, and then you do the same thing right here, and you can see how that prior resistance comes back into play as some support here. So then again, we're trying to qualify pivots. Do we have a good pivot here at this low? Could this be the start of something new? Well, if we start to open this up, now I'm still on an 8-hour here, you can certainly see that you have a corrective structure here that would imply A, B, and potentially that's your C. So we know that a B can go very high. So if we look here, we even get through the 786. If I were to put the 887 on that probably holds it, right? So we're between the 786 and the 887 on the B wave, and that is an extreme. And then we come down. Here's the algo target from that. Likely not relevant from that pull because the algos would have switched. So if we put work here, anything here, well, there. Let me click it. There's the 50. We've not gotten to this target yet. So as I will often tell you, just because we have the target down there doesn't mean that it gets hit. It's just something to be aware of. So if I will look from that last pivot, you can see what's happened here. We're running into that resistance. We've hit it twice. So here's resist 50, 50. So this level here as it relates now to this. So we can see back here. Here was the front run on the 50. Then we move it over to where we are now. And here we're hitting that 50 again. So that's a reasonable explanation as to why we're stalling here and struggling to get through this. So is it a technical pivot? Well, let's go dig in a little bit more closely. Let's go down to the 1 hour and see if we can get anything to suggest that we might have a completed. Well, we can look right here. So just looking at this last move coming down, excuse me. I can pretty clearly see I've got a 3. There's a B into a 5 here. So I would just again, all I'm trying to do is get a handle on how good is this low. Do I have any technical confluence here that would give me confidence in that low? Well, it's not great there. So I might I would just start checking pivots. Got nothing there. So then I would look. I use the alternate tool. I would look for a 5-wave relationship. The length of the 1 projected from the 4. It's a little better. So here's the 100% likely candidate for a low. So, we build the case. So we've got a candidate here. We don't know it's the absolute low because you could certainly make the case here that we have something like this going in here. There's an ABC. Now, we don't know. It could be 1, 2, 3, and we're in a diagonal. We don't know, and we aren't going to know until we see what do we get another push up here. So hard to argue with that. So if I pull back out here, we know the 50 is the resistance. We've had a 3-wave structure. you know, that's it remains to be seen. So first thought is, well, until there's more clarity, you know, what we need to get through, we need to get on the other side of the 65. Until there's more clarity, that certainly could just continue to play as an ABC, and then we'd be heading back down from this. So this would be A, B. Well, you know, we have to wait and see. But I know people that are interested in this coin are looking for the bullish count, so we can make a case here for that side of it. It's maybe a truncated fifth. So if we work off of this as a 1, we get a B, C into the 2. Well, here's our 3. Potentially now we've double bottomed here into a 4. So let's open that up a little. Let's get this up here. So we know we have this well-established resistance here. So I'm going to wick that off just as I normally would, just as I did down here, right? So we're looking for that prior resistance, see, again, right? So you might take the majors, just looking, because you're going to anticipate that that's going to be resistance on the way up. So can we get a fifth into this to give us more confidence that we have a good pivot here and that we've gone into a leading diagonal? Let me open it up even a little further. Okay, so do we have a leading diagonal? Could we make that case? Well, you know, we've got a candidate here for a 1. We get our nice ABC into that 2, and it's got a little complexity to it. So we get our little ABC into a 2. Right? So what's the first thing we're going to do? Of course, we're just going to pull fibs, see if we get a relationship there. Do we have algos and showing their hand? Well, so here's the 50. Right, so you make that case that we're, as a 2, you would expect anywhere from the 50 to the 786. We get that. Here's the algo target. We get through it. All right, so here's the first. That's likely the front run. So you can see we had, this is interesting right here. We don't overlap. So you can see within that third, it's actually unusual. If it's going to be a diagonal, we got an impulse into that third. You know, just a point of note. So we can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a third there. But because the 4, if it's going to play as a 4, as a diagonal, and the 4 is here, then we've overlapped the 1, so we are working with a diagonal. As it's now potentially setting up as a diagonal, we're going to pull from the absolute low to the 3 high. And now this is kind of interesting. So this market seems to like the 50s. So swing low to swing high. We'd be anticipating the 4th at the 50. What do we get? So a nice little double bottom here to offer that. And take note, yet once again, this prior resistance offers the support. All right, so always good. Always look left. See if you can find anything there that might be helpful. And then prior support there. So you get, again, we're getting these support zones here. So this prior support was the resistance here. Down it goes. Now that prior resistance becomes the support. See, pretty straightforward. Okay, so where are we now? Do we have another leg in it? We'd need it if we're going to look for the bullish side of it. We need it, you know, at least to get up here and challenge that high. I mean, you could make the case we challenged it and failed here, but here's the algo target off of that 50, so you know that there are a group of traders with a vested interest in seeing it get there. Do we get there? Well, we don't know. We don't know for sure. So looking here, of course, working from that pivot, I'd want to put a pitchfork on this. Okay, so that helps, gives me some market geometry that might lead. So this is it. Look at that, right? So that's a good example, right? So it's already. So Andrew's median line trading principle number 1. If you draw 3 pivots and they hold, you have an 80% probability of making the median line. So we've already hit it, right? Do we get it again? All right, so here was a little pop. All right, we get a reaction at the median line. Back down we go. Do we go again? Because now you've got pattern, price, the fib target, the market geometry. You have a lot of things lining up to give you that potential move up to complete this 5-wave sequence. Now we can be more confident that it's not an ABC, that we get a leading diagonal into a 1-wave. Let's get it back in context. So can we get a 1-wave there? So if I pull it out again, right, where are we? All right, working off of this low. Can I get my 1-wave in there? And if I can, then I'm going to work from this. Again, now I'm hypothetical here. If I get that as my completion of my diagonal, let me change that color so it doesn't confuse. We can go all the way up. to intermediate for the example. So again, I'm hypothetical here. Do I get a 1 here? If I do get a 1 here, then I'm going to pull from that, looking for my 2 to go at least to the 50. So, and just as I did before, so I would wick off this 1, potential support zone, prior resistance, potential support. So, you know, these are good, just always good to look left and see if I can find any place where I get a confluence, where I get something like this. Well, so we can look here, you know, so right, look at the front run, look at the potential here for a front run on the 618. All this prior resistance, right? It came into play here. So maybe we come back down. So what are we looking for here? If we get there, we want to see some, you know, some subdivision there. So if I can get this to get hot. So we would want to see something along those lines. All right, maybe the A. So often you'll see the A will go to the 3.8, then we'll get a push up for the B. So if I put the wave on that, that's what we'd be looking for. Do we get it? Well, right now we still got to qualify this, because this has already come up, tapped the median line, sold off. So potentially that's a recycle to go again. I would say there's not really a trade there just at the moment. If I open this up again, you know, if you want to be aggressive, there just wouldn't be enough risk reward in there to make it worthwhile. You know, if you were a buyer here, yeah, I'll show you. So if you're a buyer here looking to, come here, buyer right where we are, looking to get up to that target. You know, if you put the stop here, well, that's 1.83 to 1. Put the stop under the 50. There's 3 point. You know, I mean, I suppose you can make that case that you'd have at least 3.6 to 1 if you're going up to the algo target. Not terrible. I don't know that I would jump on it here, because there's still the possibility that all we're doing is setting up an ABC, and this has got more room to go down here. So you know, it's a wait and see. Since I put that in that context for you, you know, if you think about where we are, there's no reason to rush. There's no reason to rush into this. Let it confirm that we've got a diagonal to start us off in a 1 wave. So again, you know, unless you're just itching to get into this trade because you like the fundamental story, which I respect that. You know, if you want to be in because you like the story, and you know, if we look over here at Vertcoin, one of the things that is really appealing about Vertcoin is it's been around for a while, so 4 years. So the market cap still is relatively low. So after 4 years, you'd anticipate that the metric score here, their composite would be over 50. But this is a good sign. All right, so we're at 72 here. So strong interest in the development community. That's always an encouraging sign, despite the fact that the market cap, we're still sitting at, you know, just over 200 million. So, you know, something to take note of. Now, we've seen coins be over $1 billion that were, you know, 3-4 months on the market, and you know, this is not one of them. But you know, it's had a pretty substantial sell-off here, and we're just trying to qualify: do we have the start of something new, a whole new 5-wave sequence? Well, we'll see. First thing we need to see: do we get a completed 5-wave here to give us that diagonal into the 1? Do we get it? If we do, is it technical? And then coming down, right, we got to wait for the correction. So it's a bit of a hurry up and wait here. I'd be alarming. First thing I'd want to know is, do we get beyond this prior high? Can I get beyond that high? Then, you know, do we run into some resistance here? Because certainly nothing says that we couldn't run into the median line right there. All right, we did have if I pull this up, we're looking here, we can see that this is the algo target here from this 50. So we'll see if they get there. If they front run it a little bit, that wouldn't be surprising. You know, typically they will. We're not going to, you know, sometimes we hit it to the tick, but usually there's a bit of a front run as they take profit ahead of it. So I mean, that's a very reasonable setup there. You know, you could take the A, as I've shown before. You could take the A, and you know, if you get a 3-wave into the A wave, you could take that on potentially being the correction. You've got the trade into the B. If it rolls over, your stop's at break even, or you take a little partial here if it starts to roll over. If we go 3 waves, that's a contender. If you get stopped out, it would be a very modest loss, if not break even. If you just, you know, if it started to move, you'd likely tighten your stop up. Why hold the risk? We go up here. If we start to roll over, well, now your stop's at break even. You move your stop to break even. I can't even get it to, there we go. So now your stop's at break even. You got a free ride. If you get this pattern that we've seen so often in crypto, that seems like we're getting in Bitcoin right now. If we get the shallow C, well, then you're still on board and you've got a free trade. And now you got this potential here. So there's nothing wrong with taking the first leg down if it subdivides into 3, but know that there's a reasonable probability that given the length of time, there's a reasonable probability that we go down, we complete the 2 down at the 50. That's the expectation. But you just never know. Just never know. So that's why that's a place where you wouldn't load up on it, but you might, little snack bite right there. All right, guys, I'll wrap it there.